My prince, you've been despondent since we set out. You've scarcely said a word this whole time, and it's been a few hours. Are you worried, perhaps? After all, Litany does not have the best of relations with Luor. The queens, that is, your mothers, have done much to ease the tensions between our lands, but we have a rather bloody history with them. War, you understand, is always political, though many believe it to be a conflict of morality. Those who cast stones in defense of their morals seldom have the high ground, at least as I understand it. You're not worried? Then it's because of this particular type of diplomacy, isn't it? The fact that you'll be expected to court someone from the Luosian royal family bothers you, doesn't it? That makes sense. I've noticed how uncomfortable you get when noble women come in their attempts to woo you in order to climb the social ladder. Not to criticize the way of things, I just... My prince, this is a very personal question I'm about to ask. If you do not want to say anything, I will not read into your silence. I promise. You prefer men over women, don't you? Yes, I thought your interest in some of the Relden gladiators seemed different from mine. Me? Well, I aspire to be as strong as them. They're quite fit, and I envy that. But you look at them in a much different way. Much in the way some men stare at women they find beautiful. Or the way your mothers look at each other. Of course I pay attention to you, even when we're otherwise occupied. It's my sworn duty, after all. The Luosian royal family does have an unmarried prince. Although Luor's customs are slightly less approving of relationships between two men, it's not against the law the way it was 40, 50 years ago. But the stigma is more prevalent here than in Litany. Though I have heard rumors about Prince Fierro, the youngest in the Luosian royal family. Well, I've heard that he's been spotted stealing moments away with both ladies and lords. Not that we should take rumors at face value, but there is a chance. Even still, I can see you don't care much about the idea of marrying for political reasons. I can understand that. I know I wouldn't much appreciate being required to marry under such circumstances. Even if there was a chance at being with someone, well, I don't really know if I'd be open to marriage. My devotion is to you and you alone, Your Highness. But I forget myself. This is not about me, it's not even about you, not directly, it's politics. I told you before that I was raised in Luor, correct? Yes, risen for it. My mother, may she rest in the kind earth, was from there. Papa was a soldier from Litany, but he was wounded before he ever made it to battle. He laments his lost chances of glory, but I for one am grateful for his accident, because he would not have met my mother had he been able to forge onward. He would have killed many or been killed, or more likely, both. But instead, my mother found him by a river, flung from his horse and ignored by his fellow soldiers. And though she recognized his uniform as Litanian, she was not the sort of person to leave someone in need. She helped him make his way to her home, and she nursed him back to health. When I was just a little boy, young enough to have a very shaky understanding of consequences, but old enough to show off foolishly, my parents decided we should move to the Luosian capital of Ruach. I grew up there, mostly, after the incident I told you about, where I fell. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I went out and saw the sights. The Ariha waterfall, the crystalline caves of Mount Ikoa, the forest of flames. I traveled for a long time, but eventually I returned to Luor to become a knight. What can I say? It was my calling. Ah, look, my liege. You can see the city on the horizon. What a beautiful skyline, especially at sunset like this. Calling me a romantic? Hardly. I just think the world it's a beautiful place. Perhaps we should rest up a little before we arrive. Not to be forthright, but you look rather tired. Yes, my prince, rest. I will wake you when we arrive. Ah, there you are, my prince. You slipped away while Princess Adelia was speaking with me about, well, I don't know what she was trying to say, and I'm not entirely certain she knew either. But that's not important. How are you feeling? That is understandable given the circumstances. I can't say I envy you, even with the royal title. I saw you speaking with Prince Vieira earlier. He seems sweet, doesn't he? Not interested. I suppose that's fair. He's in a relationship. Oh. You mean the tailor he spoke so highly of was... I had no idea. It didn't occur to me. Are you making fun of me, Your Highness? I suppose I am a little bit oblivious where romance is concerned. Of course, such a match would be unlikely to work out. A craftsman and a prince? I fear we have a long way to go before that will be plausible. You want my thoughts on the matter? Well, I'm not very well versed in diplomacy, but I don't see why marriage should be the only method through which two kingdoms can find common ground. If you become friends with anyone in the royal family, wouldn't that also be worthwhile? A true friend can be a valuable ally. Princess Noreen seems to have an interest in flower arranging. And, you know a great deal about flowers. Why don't you try to strike up a conversation with her? Become her friend? She's the eldest daughter. She's already being courted by a duke, so talking to her shouldn't lead to any misunderstandings of intention. In the meantime, would you like to walk in the gardens? Perhaps it's a little selfish of me, but I've heard that the Luor Castle gardens are quite something to behold, and you know how much I like relaxing in a well-tended garden. Thank you, my prince. I'm glad you want to see them as well. Let us go there, then. Hi, Ginger Neutral here. Thanks for listening to my audio.